That's absolutely an honor, to be a federal judge, of course. But, what I do as a state judge in Harris County with things like the Veterans Court, where I see, people, veterans every day, and I'm helping them, I'm getting them the treatment that they need, and counseling, and taking, homeless people off of the street and putting them in housing, and supervising, probationers. Those are things that state court judges do. Federal judges don't get, they don't really have that opportunity to do that. And so it's really, satisfying to have, a chance, an opportunity to make a difference in your community the way a state court judge can.
What was your, so you're a staple of the courthouse, but also the programs that you've been amongst a collaboration of individuals, but that you've spearheaded.
Yeah. What
was one of them being the Veterans Court?
Yeah.
What was your inspiration behind that?
Well, it probably starts at birth. I was born into a military family. I'm 59 years old. Well, on the 15th, I'll be 59 years old. And so I was 9 years old when my dad went to Vietnam. And I remember that was like 1968. I remember what the country was like at that time, but all I knew were every adult male that I knew was a soldier, at that time in my life. And so it had a huge impact on me. And of course, when I went to school, I was in ROTC, and I became, an Army officer. And when
let's take it back. Where did you go to school? Where are you from?
Well, I was born in Germany, Army brat. I went to University of Texas, and that's where, exactly.
There it is.
Can finally shine.
Yes.
And by the way,
Texas football is back.
We're back.
I'll make it clear that I'm totally on board with Coach Herman.
Yes.
I was a skeptic, but I said after he beat OU,
you can come back anytime you want, Judge.
Exactly.
You can come back anytime you want.
So I'm all good with that. But so I was in ROTC there, and that was again. A great experience for me. It's something that I realized that being an Army officer is something that I would be pretty good at, and I was actually very successful in that career. I was in military intelligence. My wife was a German national, and she's of course a U.S. citizen now. I met her when I was a lieutenant stationed over there. So when I made the rank captain, I decided that that I would do something other than the military. It was a family decision. And the funny thing was that experience getting out is kind of hard to explain, but I really did have like a sense of loss, a sense of grief. I go from this job where have 250 soldiers underneath me, and we're doing intelligence operations in Cold War Europe. And everybody's got, a job from private to, all the way up the chain, and, your family. And you're not just doing your mission, but you're taking care of your soldiers, their families, you're making sure they're fed, you're making sure they're housed, their kids, everything, that's how the military works. So you have this sense of unity, and what I call it's you become a tribe. And, so what happened when I left the military, I didn't realize it, but I was like leaving my tribe, okay? And so I had this space where, I didn't know what I wanted to do or really who I was. And so it was a conversation with my father. He's like, well, what is it that you'd like to do? And I said, well, I always thought about being a lawyer. And he said, well, there you go. So that's how I ended up going to Texas Southern. I went to law school at Texas Southern when I left the military, and I clerked for Judge Hoyt after law school. He's always been somebody that I've looked up to. One of the things that I learned from him and that I'll always carry with me is, the way that he treats people in front of him.
You want to talk about somebody with judicial temperament.
Oh my goodness! I remember one day after a very contentious, sentencing, and people were mad and angry at the defendant. And I remember Judge Hoyt walking out and he looking at me and said, there go I, but for the grace of God. And and that's it. That really is the key. And so that's the kind of concept that people need to take to the bench is, you're not any better, you're not special. It's just that your circumstances are very different. But, but for the grace of God, you could be in a completely different situation.